What's up guys, and welcome back to another FSP Transmissions video. Today we have a 2013 Dodge Ram 2500 Cummins pickup truck. The 68 RFE transmission that is installed now is going to have to be removed, torn down, and diagnosed. Now, before we get into that, I'm going to hop in the cab and we're going to see what kind of codes the transmission is throwing, if any. Then we are going to pull this truck inside of the shop and I'm going to do a step-by-step process on how to fully remove this 68 RFE transmission from your pickup truck. I hope you guys enjoy this video. Thank you so much for the continuous support. FSP Transmissions is quickly growing and we're almost to that 30,000 subscriber milestone. I hope you guys have a great day, and as always, God bless. Alright, it's about freaking 100 degrees in here, but we've got a P0706 transmission range sensor rationality code. It's a range sensor, and it means the TRS was not sending the signal to the TCM, and that did not correspond to any valid PRND position. So whenever you're putting your vehicle in drive or whatever, it wasn't commanding it. I'm going to cancel all these codes out. I'm going to reset this, and we're going to see if we can't take this for a test drive first, just so we can establish that the transmission is not fully gone yet. All right, so we're going to clear it. Okay, I cleared the codes. I'm going to fire the vehicle up and put it in two-wheel drive, no 4-low, and let's see if we can't get this thing down the road and back without it going into limp mode, or let's see if we can even get it out of the driveway. Yeah, this thing's a booger. It scares me about all those codes. I cleared that and it come back on. I cleared all the codes, P0706 and then all the other ones, and it just came like right back on. And then I tried to maneuver it around. I put it in reverse. It felt like it went into reverse okay, and then as soon as I went to kind of pull it back forward, it felt like it went right back into limp mode.
Is the four-wheel drive indicator blinking on the dash?
Is it blinking on the dash? Let me see. It's electric. Yeah, it's flashing.
Yeah, that's always an indicator. If you think it's in 4-low and it's flashing, it's not in 4-low.
So
basically it's still in two-wheel drive.
So if 4-low's flashing on these things, that means it's not engaging.
Right. It's not engaging.
All right.
It's flashing.
Well, that's some good content. I sure appreciate it. I'm going to check the fluid first. That way, you know, we can just verify that the thing ain't, you know, if it's FUBAR, we're going to know. Shout out to old Dad. He's a smart cookie. All right, so we're going to see if this fluid's black off the dipstick. And yeah, it's black. Just to recap what we've got going on. We've got a 68 RFE in limp mode A. We've got a P0706 rationality code. The 4th low blinker is flashing on the dash, and so that's indicating us that we're not going into 4-wheel drive at all. The transmission is just in straight limp mode. So we've got some sort of communication error there, and the fluid is dark black. So this thing's already FUBAR'd. We're going to have to pull this thing in here, get this thing out, and get it onto the teardown bench. everybody, we are up under the truck and we are going to break these back drive shaft bolts loose. They are a 15 millimeter and you will need some sort of breaker bar here to get on these and pop these free. Now you need to pop your transmission out of park here, just like that. Pop that little clip off and then move this selector bracket back 1 or 2 clicks. It really doesn't matter as long as you're out of park. Transmission will be free. Now you should be able to rotate your drive shaft here so you can get to that last bolt. You can use a pry bar or a screwdriver. And then go back up and click the transmission back into park. Park is all the way to the right, counterclockwise. Now we should be able to get in here. Break that free. Alright, next you want to take all of your wires free from your cross member. There's little dimples that hold them in to little holes here. Just pull all that out, and we need to undo our transfer case here and get all of our electronics off of our transmission, and then get our jack up under to support our transmission so we can take our cross member out and access this front drive shaft. Alright, I am not going to be able to get footage of me taking off the electronics. The electronics are an input speed sensor, an output speed sensor, and a line pressure sensor on the passenger side. Both other speed sensors are on the driver's side. It's a push and pull mechanism. It's not too hard. I'll try to get a small shot of them. It's just super tight up here under today, and I do not have a cameraman, so I'm doing the best I can for you guys. But this wire here, this main wire harness, has got to be undone, and we can pull this transfer case off here with this connector, and then there is a overflow tube up top that we have to take off as well. There is 6 nuts that hold this transfer case on here, and they're 14 millimeter. It's always smart to have a short, stubby speed 14 millimeter handy, trying to get in here behind this to access these nuts to take the transfer case off. There are 2 bolts to hold this bracket on here for your selector arm linkage. And then this little plastic piece here pushes down, and this main wire harness comes up and pops out. There is little clips here with zip ties that are held in by tips inside of the case, and you've got to go up there and cut all those zip ties off and get that off the top of your transmission. You don't want to get into a bind when you're trying to drop this thing out. I'm going to go ahead and get my transmission supported here with my jack. That way I can go ahead and get my cross member off and access those nuts on the back of the transfer case. So we've got our transfer case unplugged here, and now we need to put some pressure on this transmission. And there's 3 15 millimeter nuts here in your cross member. You got to pull off, then lift up, and your bracket here will lift up out of your cross member. You'll need a 21 millimeter for your nut and an 18 millimeter for your bolts here. These are 18 millimeter, the back is 21. We're going to pull that off, and we might even lower this all together. We might put a ratchet strap around the transmission back here and actually lower this whole thing together as one, since I'm by myself today. And we should be able to get our bolts out. This cross member has to slide to the side one way. You can get a wrench or a pry bar up in here and move it around. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and take our mountain bracket off as well here. It's a 15 millimeter. Alright, I've got our front drive shaft removed here. There it goes. Got the front drive shaft removed here. Camera was starting to overheat a bit. So I went ahead and took all of our speed sensors loose. I took our main wire harness loose. All this is loose off of the transmission and it's free. Just like this. Not connected by any of these tits up here at all. Because there's small little tits into this wire harness you've got to pull out of this case. There it is. Like these little tits right here inside of the case. So you just got to be really, really careful. Be mindful of that, because when you start to drop this, and you'll be like, oh, why is it hanging up? Now they went in here and put a bigger exhaust, and it's pressed up against this freaking cooler line here, so we're going to have to take off the cooler line from the heat exchanger down here at the bottom. I'm going to attempt to break this free using an adjustable wrench on the heat exchanger here, preventing it from bending. Put my wrench on it just like this. Now I'm going to pull on my wrench and push away with my adjustable wrench. I think that got it. Sure enough, sure enough. Put something under it. It's going to leak. Let's get you something ready. Probably pop that top one off too. Okay guys, I know this is hard to see, but this inspection cover here has two 10mm bolts on it, and you've got to slide this back just like this to access your torque converter bolts back here. Now, being this a four-wheel drive, we will be able to take our impact and go up through our front end to access our torque converter bolts. Now, on a two-wheel drive, it's not that easy. Now here we're up under a two-wheel drive truck, and you can see this is a rack and pinion steering mechanism. On your four-wheel drive, there is a full axle in the front, so it's easier to access that torque converter bolt. You can see here you cannot get to that area whatsoever. Now this inspection cover here comes off. It's an 8mm nut, or a bolt. It's like this. There's 3 of them there. Take a screwdriver here, and you can get into the ring gear on your flex plate. Walk this over, and you need somebody on the other side over there to tell you when that bolt is, because A, this is a billet converter, so you cannot see the mounting brackets on the converter. There is an arrow here, but you cannot see the ears that you're bolting to. So you need to move it a little bit and go check. There is the bolt that we are shooting for. It looks like we rotated the flywheel just a little bit too much. Let's back it up and then get our impact gun and burn that off, buzz that off, and there's 6 total. Now I got the first one off. I like to get 3 teeth at a time and count to 12, and that normally gets me right around where I need to be to take off the rest. And remember, there's 6 of these, so go ahead and rotate your flywheel around to the next one and then the next one, and then the next one. Pull them all 6 off, and then the last thing that's left is your bell housing, unless you're wanting to take your transfer case out. Now, here are 6 converter bolts that came out of it. These are fine thread. Usually they are 18 millimeter, but these turned out to be 14 millimeter with small heads. Oftentimes you see these used on the billet converters. Now, I've tried to finagle this as much as I can, and I cannot get this. I will not be able to get this wire harness up and over the transfer case, so we're going to have to pull this transfer case out. I've got my 6 nuts here removed, and they have a washer built into the nut there, and they're also fine thread. They're a 14 millimeter. Let's go ahead and pull this bad boy out and get our bell housing loose and drop this 68 RFE and get onto the teardown bench. Now, you're going to need 2 people for this unless you're freaking Hulk. One person can get back here on the back, the other person can get up here onto this tail shaft. Okay, now that your transmission is fully exposed, only thing that's left is your bell housing bolts. And so we're going to get a long extension and a swivel with a 9/16 or a 14 millimeter socket. We're going to buzz these loose and drop this thing down. I'm going to go around and grab all my bell housing bolts out of my bell housing and put them in a nice spot where I don't lose them. And then we should be able to start wiggling this free here. Yeah, there she comes. Alright, now you want to make sure your dipstick's out, or at least unlodged from the grommet. Tilt the transmission forward just a bit. Make sure your wire harness is free and your converter's not going to grab on the bottom of your engine. Go ahead and walk her on down. Bada bing, bada boom. We're going to get this thing on the teardown bench, and we'll see you in the next video. Hope you guys have a great day.